Strategy often gets pictured as this huge, complex thing, needing tons of resources and, well, endless planning documents. But some of the most lasting wisdom, it often comes in these really small, efficient packages. Think of like a strategic Swiss Army knife, built for precision, not just brute force. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. This is for you if you want, sort of a direct line to the core. Actionable ideas in Sun Tzu's The Art of War. We're not just looking at some old text, we're pulling out a practical blueprint for, well, survival and success, whether you're launching a big project or maybe just navigating a tricky situation at work or, anywhere.
Exactly. We're really zeroing in on the core strategic ideas from the original text we used, the Lionel Giles translation. And the surprising thing for a lot of people today isn't the battle tactics. It's discovering the book is actually almost entirely about preparation, about being smart with resources, and maybe the most radical idea that the absolute best way to win is without even needing to fight.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that. Starting with the most fundamental step, the calculation. Sun Tzu insists, before you do anything, you have to assess everything. He starts by saying conflict is, well, it's life and death, so you absolutely must plan first.
Absolutely. You have to. To even have a shot at predicting victory, the general has to weigh these 5 constant factors. He says neglecting them, not an option.
And these aren't just like vague goals, are they? It sounds like a real checklist for readiness, both inside and out.
Spot on. First up is the moral law. This is about making sure the people or your team are totally aligned with the leader, willing to follow even when things get tough. Think about it today. This is your company culture. It's employee buy-in, that shared belief in what you're doing. If your team isn't unified, you're already weak.
So culture comes even before the hard numbers. Okay, what's next on the list?
Then you get the environmental factors. Heaven, that's the big picture. Understanding timing, seasons, cold, heat. In modern terms, think macro trends, tech shifts, maybe regulations. Then there's Earth. That's your immediate playing field. Distances, danger versus safety, open ground, choke points. It's knowing your supply chain, your real strengths, and where your competitors are, frankly, vulnerable.
Got it. And then you need the right person in charge and the right structure.
Exactly. The commander needs wisdom, sincerity, humanity, courage, and strictness. Real virtues. And finally, method and discipline. That's your org chart, your logistics, how you manage supplies, control spending. These 5. They're the absolute foundation. You can't skip them.
Right. And once that internal house is in order, the first weapon deployed isn't a weapon at all. It's deception. That runs through everything, doesn't it? All warfare is based on deception.
It's the whole game. It means you control how the enemy sees reality. If you can attack, you make them think you can't. If you're close, you make them think you're far. And maybe the sharpest advice on perception management, though effective, appear to be ineffective.
That sounds weird today. Companies are always shouting about their growth and strengths. How would a leader today appear ineffective? Is that just like hiding your best stuff?
It's maybe more subtle than hiding. It's like psychological sandbagging. If you're actually really efficient, really strong, you don't necessarily broadcast your full power. You might maintain a posture of, slight vulnerability, or maybe just keep quiet about some strengths. Why? So competitors get cocky, maybe overcommit, thinking you're an easy target. Deception lowers their guard. That's your opening. And this connects right back to why planning and deception are so critical. The absolutely crushing cost of delay, war, or any drawn-out conflict, it's just ruinous. Sun Tzu even puts a number on it. Keeping an army of 100,000 costs 1,000 ounces of silver every single day.
Wow, that kind of burn rate is huge. He's making a purely economic point there.
He absolutely is. When victory takes too long, morale plummets, resources vanish, and the whole state or, the whole company suffers. The text is blunt. Cleverness has never been seen associated with long delays. A smart leader wants a fast, decisive win. They understand the value of time, money, and crucially, momentum. Stalling a project because you can't decide or because of red tape, that just kills enthusiasm internally and lets your rivals define the market before you even show up.
And speaking of cost efficiency, there's that amazing detail about foraging. Use the enemy's stuff. 1 cartload of their provisions is worth 20 of your own. That's a 20x return. It's not just military supplies, is it? It feels like it means using any resource you gain from the enemy market insights, maybe talent, to drastically cut your own costs.
That focus on efficiency, on saving resources, it's the perfect lead-in to the ultimate goal. The whole reason you want to save that 20-to-1 cost is so you can aim for the highest level of strategy.
Okay, yeah, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Moving beyond just winning fights. Sun Tzu's ultimate aim isn't conquest in the destructive sense. It's supreme excellence, taking the enemy's country or market share or whatever, whole and intact. No scorched earth.
That's the gold standard. Supreme excellence is breaking their resistance without actually fighting. Why? Because if you have to destroy them to beat them, what do you inherit? Ruins. But if you can dismantle their plans, their will, maybe their alliances, psychologically or politically, then you absorb their value completely undamaged.
Which leads to that hierarchy of strategies he lays out. And it's fascinating because actually fighting the enemy's army is like third or fourth best.
Exactly, the absolute best strategy. Balking the enemy's plans. Stop them before they even start. Prevent them from getting going. Next best. Preventing the junction of enemy forces. Keep them divided, isolated. Only then, third, do you consider attacking their army directly in the field.
And the absolute worst thing you can possibly do, laying siege to walled cities.
Avoid it at all costs. Sun Tzu is super specific here. It takes 3 months just to prepare the tools, the shields, the wagons, then another 3 months just to build the ramps up to the walls. And you risk losing a third of your men in a rushed attack, and you still might not take the city. Think about that today. A siege is like a hostile takeover that drags through the courts for a year. You burn millions on lawyers, alienate everyone, and maybe end up with a hollowed-out company full of people who hate you. The cost just obliterates the prize.
So this whole philosophy, it really demands you achieve invincibility yourself before you even think about engaging. Chapter 4 talks about invincibility not being luck, but all about preparation.
It's entirely self-generated, yes. The good fighter first makes themselves impossible to defeat. Robust systems, secure supply lines, well-trained people. Then they wait. They wait for the opponent to make a mistake, to show a weakness. Invincibility is in oneself. Vulnerability is in the opponent. The master strategist looks for the battle after the victory is basically already guaranteed by their own setup.
And this reliance on being solid internally, but flexible externally. That brings us to the water analogy, right? Tactics should be like water.
Exactly. Avoid the strong points. Hit the weak spots relentlessly. Water doesn't have a fixed shape. Dam it up, it flows around. Put it in a square container, it becomes square. Warfare, or business strategy, has no constant conditions. You have to adapt based on the opponent, the situation, the moment. It's a call for, well, organizational agility, a rigid company, one that only knows one way to operate. It's basically asking to be defeated when things change.
Which all seems to loop back to that core idea of knowledge, that famous maxim, the one that gives you a sort of decision-making framework. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles.
But the nuance there is so important. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. Okay, so that's 50-50 odds. Not great. And if you know neither, forget it. You'll lose every time. Knowing yourself is just the starting point. It's the external intelligence that really determines your success rate.
Okay, so how do you manage all this fluidity and knowledge when you're dealing with huge numbers, like a massive organization? How does this idea of combined energy let a leader manage, say, 100,000 people as easily as a small team?
It comes down to clear signals, gongs, drums, flags, banners in his time. Today, think clear communication channels, focused objectives, shared KPIs, ways to direct the collective energy onto a single point. But strategically, it hinges on combining direct and indirect methods. And he says these two methods, though simple, create endless possibilities.
Right, only two methods, direct and indirect, but like the 5 notes in music creating infinite songs. So what's the practical difference? What is direct versus indirect?
Okay, the direct method is your main effort, the obvious push. The frontal attack, the main product launch, the big marketing campaign, everyone sees it coming. The indirect method is everything else that shapes the battlefield before the direct clash. It's the flanking move, the intelligence gathering, the lobbying, the PR buzz, the strategic partnerships, all the stuff that makes the direct hit successful. The real genius, Sun Tzu suggests, is in mastering the indirect, making sure that when the direct confrontation happens, it feels almost inevitable, like a formality.
And that allows for creating illusions too, right? Like pretending to be disorganized to hide perfect discipline or appearing weak when you're actually strong. The energy comes from this feeling of unstoppable momentum, like he says, a round stone rolled down a mountain thousands of feet high. Just pure focused force set up by those indirect moves.
But that whole finely tuned machine just collapses if the leadership is flawed. Sun Tzu is very clear about 5 dangerous faults in a general. And these aren't just personality quirks, they're strategic deal breakers.
Let's see if I remember. Recklessness, that's obvious. Cowardice, okay. A hasty temper, right, makes you predictable. Being too touchy about honor. And the last one, which always surprises me, is over-solicitude for his men, being too nice.
Well, too nice might be simplifying it. Over-solicitude means the leader is so worried about casualties, or maybe just making unpopular calls, that they hesitate. They fail to be decisive when needed. A hasty temper makes you easy to provoke. Recklessness wastes lives and resources. These traits aren't just bad leadership, they actively harm strategy. It contrasts with the ideal. Treating soldiers humanely, yes, but controlling them with iron discipline. Finding that balance, he says, that's the sure path to victory.
Okay, we should touch on terrain too. Sun Tzu maps out 9 situations, 9 types of ground. For us non-military folks, the basic idea is that the ground you're on dictates your options, right?
Absolutely. It sets the context for your actions. You've got things like dispersive ground, where your team might feel scattered or want to head home, difficult ground, treacherous stuff. But let's maybe focus on 2 really key metaphors: contentious ground and desperate ground.
Contentious ground. But what's the modern equivalent? Like a market everyone wants.
Exactly. That fiercely contested market segment, maybe a critical patent, or that one pool of top talent everyone's trying to hire from. Something you and your rival both must have. Sun Tzu's advice: simple. Attack not. Don't get drawn into a head-on fight there. The cost of trying to win it directly will likely cripple both sides, and maybe only some third-party benefits. It requires serious restraint.
But then there's desperate ground, the place where there's literally no escape, no plan B.
Then you must fight. There's no other choice. Retreat isn't an option. Think of a company facing an existential crisis. Pivot or die. The situation itself forces immediate total commitment. There's no ambiguity left.
So the general's ultimate job is reading these situations correctly. Even sometimes, if it means going against orders from above. He says the general can disobey the ruler if fighting won't lead to victory.
It's a powerful point. It highlights that the general's true loyalty isn't just to following orders, but to the outcome protecting the country, achieving the strategic goal. Blind obedience when the facts on the ground scream danger, that's lethal.
Okay, let's shift to the final piece. The thing Sun Tzu says separates the good from the truly great leader. Foreknowledge. Intelligence. You can have the best plans, the best team, but if you don't know what's coming, you're just guessing.
This is absolutely the capstone of the whole system, and he's crystal clear. Foreknowledge doesn't come from spirits or calculations or guesswork. It comes from other people, from spies, from human intelligence. This requires a massive shift in how you prioritize resources. I mean, Sun Tzu makes this stunning cost-benefit point. He says, being unwilling to spend money on spies, staying ignorant of the enemy situation because you're, cheap? He calls it the height of inhumanity.
Yeah.
Think about it. You're risking a campaign costing fortunes, affecting maybe hundreds of thousands of lives, or in business, shareholder value, employee jobs, just to save a tiny fraction on getting good intel. It's madness. Investing in foreknowledge offers potentially the highest ROI of anything.
And that investment isn't just cash, right?
Yeah.
It needs secrecy, treating agents well, being smart about interpreting the info, which brings us to his structure for intelligence gathering, the 5 classes of spies.
Yeah, they're the ones you'd expect. Local spies, people living in the area, and inward spies, officials working for the enemy that you've recruited. Standard stuff. But the really intricate ones are the next 3. You have converted spies. These are the enemy's own spies that you've managed to turn.
Why are they singled out as the most crucial?
Well, think about it. They have the deepest access, the highest level of trust within the enemy camp already. They are incredibly high risk, yes, but also incredibly high reward. That's why Sun Tzu insists they must be treated with extreme generosity. Their strategic value just dwarfs whatever they cost. Then you have doomed spies. These are agents you deliberately feed false information, knowing they'll likely be caught and mislead the enemy. Essential for deception.
And the last group, the surviving spies, are the ones who actually make it back with reliable news. Wow. It's this whole complex web of trust, betrayal, investment.
It is, and the ultimate secret, the real takeaway here, is his final point. Spies are the most important element in war because on them depends an army's ability to move. Without knowing the enemy's situation, you're paralyzed. You can't plan effectively, you can't deceive properly, and you certainly can't achieve that goal of winning whole.
So wrapping this all up,
Yeah.
what does this ancient wisdom really mean for you listening now, whether you're managing a team, launching something new, or just trying to navigate a tough situation? It seems to me that victory starts inside. Prioritize your moral law. Get your team completely on board. Calculate the costs relentlessly. Use indirect methods to avoid getting bogged down in costly, draining conflicts.
That's it exactly. The entire book is really a masterclass in minimizing friction. It's a guide to avoiding the head-on collision whenever possible. By building up your own resources, maximizing your intelligence, and being incredibly adaptable, like water reacting to whatever the opponent or the situation throws at you. It's about becoming so strategically sound that the opposition almost defeats itself or simply chooses not to engage.
Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on, something rooted right in Sun ideas about timing and posture. At first, then, exhibit the coyness of a maiden until the enemy gives you an opening. Afterwards, emulate the rapidity of a running hare, and it'll be too late for the enemy to oppose you. Just think, how often in life, maybe in a negotiation or facing a big choice, do we just charge straight in, show our hand too early, instead of patiently showing that coyness, just waiting for the other side to create their own vulnerability, their own opening. Something to think about. Thank you for bringing us the sources for this really fascinating deep dive into timeless strategy. Until next time.